Jiang Xiao is an orphan who has lived in an orphanage since memory began. She hit with pain and suffered setbacks until she was adopted by the Rong family and had a little brother. Her memory began to become slightly sweet as she grew up with her brother holding her and breastfeeding her. When Jiang Xiao was 7 years old, her little brother went abroad to study. When we met again, Jiang Xiao, who was 20 years old, perfectly saved the actor father who was discussing cooperation. She didn't recognize Rong Zhixing, but he pulled her back and auctioned off the piano for only 30 minutes. Jiang Xiao, he's 20 years older than you. When did you have such poor eyesight? Jiang Xiao's face was full of pressure. That actor is my father. Rong Zhixing always thought he was Jiang Xiao's younger sister, but looking at her closeness to Jiang Xiao, she felt extremely uncomfortable. In her heart he thinks he likes it. He calculated countless things just to marry her. After marriage, Rong Zhixing, please don't kiss anymore, your mouth is swollen, please restrain yourself a bit. How can we do that? Uncle is 30 years old and doesn't want to be kissed, do you understand? Proposal tips. Rong Zhixing found out that the actor was her father, and just returned to China. She actually calculated on her future father. Law, you, father. Law, please marry Jiang Xiao to me. Mr. Ba humbly begged for marriage. Little bunny, he refused my cooperation and still wants to marry my daughter. The actor's father proudly said, have you asked me for my opinion on your marriage proposal / rejection? I am the protagonist. Hey. Keywords of the novel. Rong Yi offers kisses day and night. Little Ancestor draws her sword without a pop-up window. Rong Yi offers kisses day and night. Little Ancestor draws her sword. To download the complete TXT collection, Rong Yi offers kisses day and night. Little Ancestor draws her sword. To read the latest chapter. Has Chapter 1 been PUA? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Has Chapter 1 been PUA? Zai. The phone placed on the conference table suddenly shook, and a well-defined hand casually clicked on the newly received text message. Not good, Xiao Xiao, she's really with Jiang Xiao anymore. Next, a photo was sent, showing a sweet-looking girl and a man. The girl was protected by the man behind her, with a friendly posture. Rong Zhixing's fingers, which were originally gripping the glass, suddenly tightened as he looked up and met a pair of fox eyes. His handsome eyebrows and eyes were as cold but delicate as those outlined in ink. His handsome nose was as delicate and firm as a relief sculpture. His thin lips were like a blush of water, and his cheeks were soft but still sharp and angular. The person across from him is the protagonist of this rumored relationship, Jiang Xiao, a nearly 40-year-old and still shining actor. Just this face, like the lover in the dreams of countless young girls, did not give Rong Zhixing any favorable impression. Rong Zhixing sneered in his heart. So it's you, Jiang Xiao. Mr. Rong, even if Rong is one of the world's top high-tech companies, 70% is still too much. Jiang Xi's face was extremely pale, and her usually gentle personality was almost jumping with anger at this moment. Who told him that Rong Zhixing is a good talker? You're so talkative. He will turn around and question the little girl at home. It's not as good as this. Rong Zhixing's slender fingers repeatedly tapped and pondered on the table for a moment, and his originally cold and hard face suddenly softened. His firm eyebrows and eyes instantly curved into two soft crescents. Rong sure will allow another 10 points, but the project needs to be launched 6 months in advance. I only need 25% profit, and if you are willing, let the assistant modify the contract. 25%. Jiang Xi's pupils contracted slightly. Isn't that equivalent to picking up cabbage? I can't buy at a loss, I can't fall for it. Under strong pressure, Jiang Xiao pretended to discuss with his assistant for a few words, but the assistant hesitated and advised him, Jiang Emperor, it seems that the other party is letting go so quickly. Jiang Xiao impatiently waved his hand and said, it's okay. With such a big company like Rong's, can you still deceive me? It's only a company as big as Rong that can easily deceive you. Boss. The assistant cried in a low, tearless voice in her heart. Rong Zhixing turned his head and whispered to the assistant who was drafting the contract on the side. The assistant, who had originally looked angry and thought his CEO was foolish, immediately turned from worry to joy and simply added a clause in the inconspicuous corner of the contract. The final interpretation rights belong to the Rong family. A newly printed contract was placed in front of him, and despite the concerns of his assistant, Jiang Xiao signed his name with flying colors. Compared to Rong Zhixing's solemn and reserved signature on the side, he seemed to be signing for his fans. "That's a pleasant cooperation, Mr. Jiang." With a muffled bang, a small figure suddenly rushed into the conference room. More than a dozen pairs of eyes stared at the girl who suddenly broke in, looking at each other. Rong Zhixing's pupils suddenly contracted, but the young girl ran straight over to Jiang Xi's side. She was dressed in a light pink chiffon dress, with a fluffy hem resembling soft puffs. Her delicate, unpolished face furrowed her brows, and a pair of lotus arms tightly held onto Jiang Xi's arms. Her small deer-like watery eyes were full of anxious expressions, and her tone faintly revealed a strong sense of dissatisfaction. "Ah, Ci. Hurry up and we'll be late." Okay. Jiang Xiao didn't expect the baby in front of her to suddenly rush in, and she gently rubbed the girl's head with a helpless expression. Her posture was very intimate, and Rong Zhixing's eyes were almost spewing fire. The girl was about to leave with Jiang Xiao, who hurriedly got up, her steps firm and her gaze fixed on the front without any hint of a glance at Rong Zhixing. "Jiang Xiao." Rong Zhixing suppressed the surging annoyance and anger in his chest, slowly squeezing out 3 words between his tightly clenched teeth. "Rong Zhixing. How did you return to China?" The girl holding Jiang Xiao turned her head in surprise, but her hand did not show any intention of letting go of Jiang Xiao. "Rong Zhixing." Rong Zhixing's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You little girl, I used to raise you, but now your wings are hard, and you don't even recognize my brother." Jiang Xiao has been fostered in their family since childhood, and although he has no blood relationship, he has long regarded this little girl as his sister to protect her. It's just that little one following behind him, shouting, "Good brother," and "Good brother," every day, seems to be quite unfamiliar with him now. Jiang Xiao choked and sneered, "I've grown up. If I ask your brother to call you old again. Where are you going?" Rong Zhixing's tone was very impolite, and the words seemed to squeeze out from between his teeth. "I." Jiang Xiao's face was extremely conflicted, turning her head to look at Rong Zhixing several times. She quickly pulled out a note and wrote down her WeChat ID, handing it to Rong Zhixing, who was covered in frost. She apologized repeatedly and grabbed Jiang Xi's sleeve as she quickly walked outside the door. "Sorry, Xing. I have an urgent matter today. Let's talk later. Let's go quickly, Ci. We're going to be late." Jiang Xiao was dragged away by Jiang Xiaofeng before he could say anything, leaving Rong Zhixing with a gloomy expression on his face at the meeting table. She actually left behind a man she hadn't seen in a long time, and he ran so fast. Rong Zhixing watched as the silver Lamborghini sped out from the downstairs of Rong Group, hitting the glass curtain wall with a fierce punch, and the tempered glass seemed to tremble. Hold on for a moment, the more you think, the more angry you become. When Rong Zhixing realized, he was already sitting in his own Bugatti Veyron. The parking lot seemed to still be filled with the smoke and dust left by Lamborghini's Sprint, and Rong Zhixing's eyes turned red as he stepped on the gas pedal. "Jiang Xiao, I want to see what you and this man are really going to do." At the piano auction, countless camera lenses were aimed at the silver Lamborghini parked on the red carpet. Shining leather shoes stepped out of the car door first, and Jiang Xiao, dressed in a silver suit, walked down. He got up and got off the car to pick up a young girl in a chiffon dress from the other side. "Emperor Jiang Ying. May I ask what is your relationship with her?" "Emperor Jiang Ying. How long have you been together, please?" "Jiang Yingdi. Didn't your car say it will never carry women?" The bodyguards waiting at the entrance of the auction first gathered around and stopped the long guns and short cannons that seemed to be penetrating everywhere. Jiang Xiao's hand was tightly held by Jiang Xiao, and she quietly let go, letting the sweat in her palm evaporate slightly. The next second, I was grabbed again. Before Jiang Xiao could speak, Jiang Xiao turned his head and glared at her fiercely. Don't move around. Those reporters caught you and will see how you run. Jiang Xiao harshly warned, but his tone seemed to be threatening a sleepless child with a wolf grandmother. Got it, ACI. The reporters, who were stopped by the bodyguards like wolves and tigers, seemed to be about to break through the encirclement and devour Jiang Xiao and Jiang Xiao alive in the next second. Jiang Xiao couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of water, swallowing all the grievances she hadn't expressed before. She grabbed her skirt and squeezed it behind Jiang Xiao. Call Daddy. What are you calling me? Jiang Xiao suppressed his laughter and waved his small body in his arms, avoiding the flickering camera behind him. Gah! The bright black Bugatti Veyron stopped in front of the red carpet of the auction with a sharp voice. The unique license plate number made the media present immediately recognize this person's identity, and then the sharp-smelling media turned their heads to the Bugatti that was galloping in the dark. Mr. Rong. May I ask why you came today? The slender and straight legs stepped out of Bugatti's body, and the tall and straight figure walked onto the red carpet without looking back. Its sharp and frosty gaze coldly swept over those fervent gazes. The cold words interrupted the thoughts of exploration one by one. None can serve, inform. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Free delivery to you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Free delivery to you. In the center of the auction, there was a huge piano covered in red silk fabric. Jiang Xiao kept poking his head out to look, and several times he was pushed back to his seat by Jiang Xiao. Dad. Just as the word Dad was about to be blurted out, Jiang Xiao suddenly noticed the warning in Jiang Xi's eyes. She quickly looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to her, so she lowered her voice with a pursed mouth. Ah, Ci. What are you doing? Stinky girl. What are you afraid of? This piano must be yours today. Jiang Xiao slapped Jiang Xiao's head lightly, with a tone that was not polite. Jiang Xiao held on to the slightly painful back of her head with grievances, but her eyes were fixed on the red silk cloth. She turned her head to Jiang Xi's ear, and her warm breath fell in his ear along with her voice. If I can't buy this piano, I won't want you as a dad. Jiang Xiao, who was used to the strong winds and waves, couldn't help but smile bitterly for a moment. What? Can't I compare to a piano? Jiang Xiao shook her head expressionlessly, her heart determined. It's not comparable. You left me and my family to live since childhood. How long have you been taking me home? Did I pick you up? Did I pick you up the wrong one in the hospital? Jiang Xiao stared at Jiang Xiao with a pair of fox eyes, pouting high with his small mouth, unable to help but doubt the authenticity of this blood relationship. But to be honest, Jiang Xiao's fox eyes are indeed carved from the same mold as him. Ah. It's starting. It's starting. Jiang Xiao quickly changed the topic and grabbed Jiang Xi's hand to look at him on stage. The red silk fabric was torn off, and the crystal-clear body of the piano appeared under the gentle crystal lamp. The black and white keys, as well as the strings, framework, and soundboard inside the piano, were all visible. Jiang Xiao was immediately caught in the eye, and her starry eyes did not move away from the piano. Excitedly, she grabbed Jiang Xi's hand, causing her eyebrows to jump in pain. Ah, Ci. Have you seen it? This piano is even more beautiful than you. Jiang Xiao couldn't help but laugh and cry, comparing him to the piano. Is it not as beautiful as a piano? Isn't this a species? The female host Shi Shiran walked onto the stage, dressed in a long skirt and trailing the ground. The last auction item to come is the Hengzaman crystal piano. The starting price is 5 million. 6 million. 6.5 million. 7 million. 7.5 million. Someone has already started bidding for this piano, which has a beautiful shape and is very in line with modern design styles. Not to mention, it is a classic instrument that is world-renowned and has been played by contemporary piano masters. Naturally, there are countless people vying for it. As the price of the piano skyrocketed, Jiang Xiao showed no intention of bidding. Jiang Xiao's face was so anxious that it wrinkled into a ball. Her father wouldn't stop taking pictures for her just because he didn't say that the piano looked good. As Jiang Xiao watched the grievances on his daughter's face seep out, he slowly raised his number card. A cold voice appeared low in the quiet auction venue, attracting countless pairs of surprised or puzzled eyes. 10 million. I'm talking. So it's Jiang Xiao. No wonder he's so wealthy and powerful. I'm afraid it's not bought to please the little girl, is it? In the quiet venue, the light and floating 10 million yuan stirred up a lot of splashes of water. Even at the auction venue where celebrities gathered, there were always a few people who couldn't help but whisper. 10 million. Hee hee. Just 10 million yuan to win Xiao Xiao's favor. Rong Jixing, who was sitting in the private room, let out a contemptuous sneer. The red light for the private room quotation suddenly lit up, and a gloomy voice like thick ink poured into the water, stirring up the entire venue for a moment. Everyone clearly felt the pressure from that voice. 20 million. 20 million. The celebrities present in the audience were in an uproar. This piano is indeed of great value and significance, but it has directly increased from 10 million to 20 million. This is the true wealth and boldness, right? The customer with number 143 is bidding 20 million yuan. Is anyone else interested in bidding? This price is somewhat unexpected for Jiang Xiao. His original budget was only 18 million yuan, which is the ceiling price estimated by industry insiders. Unexpectedly, someone is even more wealthy than him. Ah Xiao. What should I do? The piano is going to be bought by someone. Jiang Xiao was so anxious that she clenched her skirt tightly, with a thin layer of mist in her eyes. She kept looking back at the glass of the illuminated private room on the second floor. 20 million times. 20 million times. Congratulations to guest number 143 for taking this piano. Let's go, baby. Let's go meet this number 143. Jiang Xi's narrow fox eyes narrowed slightly, and he couldn't see clearly what was inside the private room outside the brown glass, but he vaguely felt like he had heard that voice somewhere before. Knocking. When the door opened and Rong Jixing, dressed in a meticulously cut black striped suit behind the door, appeared in front of Jiang Xiao, a surprised expression appeared in his beautiful eyes, which were shimmering with water. Brother Jixing. How could you be here? Jiang Xi's face suddenly became a bit strange, but he still maintained a warm and appropriate smile on his face. He doesn't remember Rong Jixing's hobbies for musical instruments and classical music. Can he buy them back as ornaments? Mr. Rong, I didn't expect that this piano was taken by you. Rong Jixing stared straight at Jiang Xiao with a pair of eyes, suddenly regaining consciousness but not avoiding his gaze being exposed in front of Jiang Xiao. He made way for a seat in the private room, and Jiang Xiao knowingly patted Jiang Xiao's shoulder to keep her outside the door. The light in the private room was not bright, and the warm yellow light could only vaguely illuminate the faces of two men with vastly different temperaments. Mr. Jiang, I can give this piano to Jiang Xiao for free. Rong Jixing opened the door straight to the point, his deep, pitch-black eyes burning like eagles and falcons. The condition is very simple, let Jiang Xiao stay with me for half an hour, and I have something to say to her. He never suffers losses in his career, as people outside the industry know. Jiang Xiao is also confused. When did Rong Jixing become a scapegoat? Although 20 million is considered a sprinkle of water for him, right? Buying his daughter for half an hour for 20 million yuan is really rich and powerful. On the surface, Jiang Xiao didn't show anything and agreed decisively. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rong, for looking up to us Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao. A simple title almost caused Rong Jixing to punch Jiang Xi's face on the spot. His knuckles were clenched slightly white, and the barely maintained smile on his face clearly had a hint of biting teeth. After all, Xiao Xiao is my sister. A small figure pushed the door in after Jiang Xiao, and a delicate little face was even more lovable under the warm yellow light. Jiang Xiao's voice was timid, and Rong Jixing felt that the girl in front of her was still the little girl who liked to chase him when she was a child. Brother Jixing, what do you have to say to me? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Fame and Disgrace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Fame and Disgrace. As soon as the door of the private room closed, Rong Jixing's smile could no longer be sustained, and his thin lips pursed, revealing a clear expression of disgust. Is this the man you're interested in? Jiang Xiao was confused and her slender eyebrows furrowed tightly. Rong Jixing, what do you mean? Ah Ci is very kind to me. Will you sell you to me for 20 million? Rong Jixing was filled with contempt, and when he spoke up, he deliberately emphasized the number of 20 million, with a strong tone of disdain. Jiang Xi's meticulous and handsome appearance also became a bad disguise for deceiving Jiang Xiao in his eyes. Didn't you call me in? Jiang Xiao's eyebrows almost furrowed into a Chuan character. It was Ah Ci who told me you had something to say to me before I came. Rong Jixing was momentarily speechless, and his heart became increasingly restless. He walked back and forth with his hands in his pockets for 2 laps. Jiang Xiao was dizzy and quickly reached out to grab his arm. Rong Jixing, you didn't call me here just to speak ill of ACI, did you? Ci saying bad things. At this moment, not only was there a silence, but Rong Jixing felt that the water valve in his heart had been blocked by Jiang Xiao, making him almost unable to catch his breath. He took a few deep breaths before calming down and said, Are you just so fond of being taken care of by him? A few words fell to the ground with a sound, and Jiang Xiao ignored Rong Jixing's surprise and slowly released the hand that was tightly gripping him. Suddenly awakened, Rong Jixing seemed to realize something, subconsciously reaching out to grab Jiang Xiao's hand, but was thrown away. So in your eyes, am I this kind of person? The 2 words, taking care of oneself, really hurt Jiang Xiao's self-esteem. Anyone who is related to these 2 words will not be in a good mood, right? Xiao Xiao. Jiang Xiao's expression of resistance and injury really made Rong Jixing's heart ache. The flesh in his heart felt like it was being bitten by ants, and there was a delicate and tingling pain. However, it was clear that there was a photo there, which was conclusive evidence. He finally let out a light sigh and endured all the anger in his heart. I didn't mean that, but Jiang Xiao is definitely not a good person. You're still slandering Ah Ci. Speaking of Jiang Xi's name, Jiang Xiao immediately interrupted Rong Jixing's words with a loud voice. The beautiful fox has ripples in its eyes and red eyes. Her voice trembled slightly, but every word left Rong Jixing speechless. You've been walking for so long. In 13 years, you've only said a few words to me. There's no phone call, no video, and now suddenly it's popping up. You've said so many strange things. What are you doing? You're not my own brother. We don't have any legal aid relationship, why bother with who I'm with? After speaking, Jiang Xiao fiercely broke free from Rong Jixing's hand, which he had reached out to try to keep. Rong Jixing wanted to chase after him, but he suddenly stopped his steps. He never expected that his years of working abroad, neglecting the care and concern for Xiao Xiao, would result in such serious consequences. The deep male voice watched the girl's fleeing figure, his thin lips tightly pursed into a straight line. He pondered for a moment and dialed a phone number. There's something you need to do. Xiao Xiao, I shouldn't say that to you. Are you free tomorrow night? I'll treat you to dinner and apologize to you. The rich aroma of coffee in the cafe was lingering, and Jiang Xiao's face furrowed tightly as she looked at the text message on her phone. A woman with exquisite makeup sat opposite her, attentively adding sugar and milk to her coffee. What's wrong, Xiao Xiao? It's not Rong Zhixing yet. Yesterday, he said I was taken care of by CI. I don't want to talk to him now. Yesterday's incident really angered Jiang Xiao, and she became even angrier after thinking about the few words Rong Zhixing said. Oh my little ancestor. The woman pinched Jiang Xiao's bulging face with a wry smile as she heard it. A 18th-tier female celebrity like me who nobody knows on the road, who doesn't want to hook up with your family CI. He must have misunderstood you when he saw you two together. That's right. Jiang Xiao, holding her small face in both hands, had to admit that her biological father had a face that was harmful to the country and the people. With a bitter face, she handed her phone to the woman and her small mouth kept sighing. Rong Zhixing said he wanted to treat me to dinner and apologize to me. Jiani, do you think I should go? Shen Jiani looked at the three words Rong Zhixing on the source of the text message, and a hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. Xiao Xiao, you go ahead. He was so kind to you, so he definitely didn't mean to say that about you. That's right. Jiang Xiao had already made up her mind and took a satisfied sip of double-sweetened coffee. Emperor International Hotel. Clouds can be faintly seen outside the window of the high-end restaurant on the first floor of the observation deck, and the full moon is just right, casting a layer of silver frost on the ground. The restaurant on this floor is not crowded, and each table is far away, leaving enough private space for guests. The guests dressed in light whispered and laughed, without affecting Jiang Xiao and Rong Zhixing sitting by the glass curtain wall. Jiang Xiao was dressed in a moon-white silk dress, with a skirt that wrapped her slender legs in layers like rose petals. She was delivering a bright red strawberry to her mouth. The fruit mousse had a delicate taste, and the light pink surface looked appetizing. Thank you, Rong Zhixing. The juice of strawberries remained on the cherry-red lips, shining like pink jelly that made people feel moved. Rong Zhi raised his eyebrows slightly and swallowed a dry mouthful, not easily noticeable. He quickly took a sip of red wine to extinguish the flames in his heart. Do you still want to thank me? But Rong Zhixing, have you been away for so long? You should be polite. CI taught me. Jiang Xiao bit the silver fork and licked off the cream on top, with a natural expression on her eyebrows and eyes. Without any reason, Jiang Ci was brought up again, and Rong Zhixing's previously improved mood was stirred up into a puddle of muddy water. Alright, you Jiang Ci. I really don't know what you did to make Xiao Xiao so unforgettable. But a message came through the phone, task completed, EP1-10. Rong Zhixing glanced at his phone and pressed it out in a good mood. Make sure Jiang Ci is in EP1-10. Several men wearing duckbill caps hurried past, whispering softly, holding cameras in their hands. Sure. The news is true. Jiang Xiao frowned, is ACI also here? What news have these paparazzi received? Jiang Xiao looked at Rong Zhixing with some embarrassment and said, Rong Zhixing, I'm a bit uneasy. I want to go and take a look. With the consent of Rong Zhixing, she even disregarded the strawberry mousse on the table and stood up, pulling Rong Zhixing to leave. Rong Zhixing only felt the dazzling smile on his face. He grabbed Jiang Xiao's wrist and strode towards the room number he already knew. Room EP1-10. Bang! The half-concealed door suddenly opened, and a sharp female voice broke the silence in the darkness. Ah! Under the bright light, Jiang Ci's shirt was pulled open, revealing a large chest. There was an abnormal blush on her face, and she leaned against the bed, panting heavily. The sullen expression in her eyes was obvious. There was a woman beside him who fell to the ground, dressed in revealing clothes with her crispy breasts half exposed, her messy hair half covered, and she was lying on the ground, covering her face and crying. Rong Zhixing stood on the side, holding his arms and watching coldly. After seeing their faces clearly, Jiang Xiao's expression changed and he said, "ACI. Jiani. Why are you here?" End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The best CI in the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The best CI in the world. Jiang Xiaofei quickly walked over and threw the air conditioner onto Jiang Xiao, firmly covering him. "Ah CI. Are you okay?" Rong Zhixing and Shen Jiani, who was still pretending to cry, were dumbfounded. Is this different from what was written in the script? Shouldn't Jiang Xiao scream, "Jiang Xiao, you scumbag," and immediately slap Jiang Xiao? Now. Why are you so calm? Xiao Xiao, Jiang Xiao, he. Shen Jiani's face was full of bitterness, and the tears on her face were still desperately squeezed out by herself. It was clear that she looked like she had been violated, but Jiang Xiao's attitude towards Jiang Xiao made her unable to speak. "Jiani, how could you be with ACI?" No matter what happened to Shen Jiani and Jiang Xiao, once captured by the media, it would be the headline news. The news of young actor's late-night encounter with a little star is enough to ruin Jiang Xi's reputation for so many years. "Xiao Xiao, take her out first. Jiang Xiao and I have something to say." Rong Zhixing lightly patted Jiang Xiao's shoulder and whispered a warning. But his eyes looked up and down at Jiang Xiao, who was all disheveled. Jiang Xiao reluctantly glanced at her unhappy father and obediently pulled Shen Jiani out of the ground. Before leaving, she didn't forget to cover her body with a wide towel. "Xiao Xiao. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snatch your boyfriend. It was Changgu who forced me." As soon as she walked into the dimly lit hallway, Shen Jiani suddenly knelt down, her tone filled with tears, and her already pale faces were covered in tears, with a hint of pitifulness. But Jiang Xiao didn't notice a hint of resentment in Shen Jiani's eyes. If she had an affair with Jiang Yingdi, this unknown 18th-tier celebrity could immediately take advantage of this opportunity to rise to the top. She begged for the opportunity that Changgu had only received for a long time. It was destroyed by Jiang Xiao. Like this, Jiang Xiao sighed and bent down to wrap the towel that fell off Shen Jiani's shoulder around her. She also knew that it was not easy for her friend to get involved in the entertainment industry on a daily basis, but when she touched her biological father's head, she couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. Her usual warm and soft tone has now cooled down. "Anyway, I hope you don't provoke my family ACI again in the future. We have a good relationship, and you can't help outsiders bully ACI. No way. I won't do it again in the future." Shen Jiani shook her head repeatedly, noticing clearly that Jiang Xiao had softened her heart, and a glimmer of happiness flashed in her eyes. Thinking of ACI's repeated reminders to her, Jiang Xiao pursed her pink lips but still didn't say anything. "That's it, I won't hold you accountable for today's matter. But you must not slander ACI outside, otherwise we won't even be friends." In the hotel room, Rong Zhixing held his arms and looked at Jiang Xiao, who had not yet recovered, with a cold gaze. Jiang Xiao took a few deep breaths before finally getting rid of the unknown medicinal effects. He leaned half against the bed and sighed softly in his heart, sensing the pressing gaze. Pop. A stack of clear photos were thrown in front of Jiang Xiao, each with the faces of Jiang Xiao and Shen Jiani. In the photos, the two of them were dressed in disheveled clothes and had an ambiguous atmosphere. As long as they were sent to the media, they would be a heavyweight bomb in the entertainment industry. "Leave Xiao Xiao, otherwise don't blame me for making this photo public." Rong Zhixing's gloomy voice carried a clear warning connotation. Jiang Xi's face instantly became very exciting. Even a fool should understand now. It turns out that this kid is looking for his daughter. At this moment, Rong Zhixing's clearly threatening words sounded a bit funny to him. Thinking of Rong Zhixing, the CEO of the Rong family who is in charge of everything in Jincheng, one day he will bow his head and admit his mistake, pour tea and water for him, and call him Dad. He couldn't help but want to laugh out loud, but at this moment he couldn't, and it wasn't even time. Jiang Xiao lifted his eyes and secretly glanced at the serious Rong Zhixing, coughing lightly twice. Cough, what's that? As long as you give me the film, I promise to leave Xiao Xiao. Rong Zhixing didn't expect him to agree so readily, but his disdain for Jiang Xiao grew even stronger. He even gave up Xiao Xiao because of a few ambiguous photos. Not really a good bird. When you leave Xiao Xiao, I will have someone give you the film. After watching Rong Zhixing leave, Jiang Xiao couldn't help but cover her mouth, and suppressed laughter leaked through her fingers. How dare Miao's Rong Zhixing calculate against me? How can I make you cry and beg to call me Dad in the future? With a creak, Jiang Xiao's gaze followed the door and Rong Zhixing walked out of the room. How is ACI? Is he okay? She anxiously crossed over Rong Zhixing and kept looking into the room. Shen Jiani got up from the ground in tears, facing Rong Zhixing's sharp gaze as she scrutinized. She felt like a light shining on her back, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and casually said a word before hastily folding the towel and running away. Jiang Xiao. Rong Zhixing suddenly stopped and the girl bumped into his broad back. She let out a soft hiss and complained softly, covering her head with her small hand. Rong Zhixing, what are you doing? What's so good about that Jiang Xiao? You've seen him sleeping with other women, why do you still believe him? Rong Zhixing angrily turned around and only grabbed Jiang Xiao's slender arm. The girl was about to break free in pain, with a faint tear in the corners of her eyes. Rong Zhixing, you hurt me. Jiang Xiao's painful expression really pricked Rong Zhixing's heart, and he couldn't bear it anymore, so he had to release some strength. I understand ACI, and I believe he's not that kind of person. There must be a misunderstanding in between. The tightly clenched wrist turned red, and Jiang Xiao rubbed it in her mouth without any doubt about Jiang Xi's character due to the scene she saw today. You've been drugged by him, haven't you? What's really good about him? The breath that was originally stuck in my heart was once again held back, almost causing my eyes to turn white and I almost had a heart attack. Jiang Xiao reluctantly broke open Rong Zhixing's wrist and gripped her. The beautiful fox's eyes were full of persistence, and her delicate voice was now extremely piercing to Rong Zhixing's ears. He's good at everything. He's the best CI in the world. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Meeting with Yu Wei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Meeting with Yu Wei, Xiao Xiao, I have sold the house we live in. The new house is still being renovated. You can go back to your foster parents' house to live in first. Jiang Xiao looked at the message sent by Jiang Xiao and let out a long sigh. She had not yet arrived home when her biological father kicked her out. I just had an argument with Rong Zhixing, and now I want to stay at home again. I just hope he happens to not be at home. Before she could turn off her phone, the latest hot search appeared on it. A well-known musician in the circle with ID Yu Wei openly brought up the topic of the best CI in the world, claiming to personally write a song to celebrate Jiang Xiao, and willing to publicly disclose the copyright of the song for free. Any singer can sing this song. Coinciding with the anniversary of Jiang Xi's debut, the topic of the best CI in the world became the top trending topic overnight. Jiang Xiao looked at the unanimous praise in the comments, and a smile of unclear meaning appeared on her face. The familiar Rong family gate was right in front of him, and Jiang Xiao took a deep breath. Ding dong. The crisp doorbell rang, and Rong Zhixing opened his eyes and got up from the sofa, quickly going to open the door. Jiang Xiao, holding a large and small bag, stood in front of the door with a dissatisfied expression on her small face. Her pink and frozen mouth pouted high, unwilling to even glance at Rong Zhixing in front of her. Allow to stop. With an unwilling call, Rong Zhixing breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He bent down and snatched the salute from Jiang Xiao's hand, walking skillfully towards Jiang Xiao's room. The furnishings at home are still the same as when Rong Cheng left many years ago, but the Rong family and his wife are nowhere to be seen. Jiang Xiao walked up and down at home, but didn't see the familiar figures. Stop traveling, why are you here? This is my home. I'm not here. Where is it? Rong Zhixing explained without changing his expression that he wouldn't tell Jiang Xiao that he was instigating his parents to travel around the world, either openly or secretly. Walking up the corner of the stairs, Jiang Xiao walked into the familiar room and suddenly fell onto the soft big bed. The soft velvet blanket seemed to still have the soft fragrance of the sun. Her whole face was buried in the blanket, and her voice was muffled. Stop. Don't think. I forgive you. Rong Zhixing's originally relieved smile suddenly stiffened. He always doubted whether this Jiang Xiao was in conflict with his fate. Why was he always entangled with Xiao Xiao? All right, it's my brother's fault. Rong Zhixing softened his tone and took the lead in showing goodwill. He sat by the bed and gently patted the girl's back. This age made his slightly hoarse voice even deeper and more magnetic. Brother, will you stop speaking ill of Jiang Xiao in the future? Really? You can't lie to me. The girl lifted her little face with a joyful smile, just like the little girl in Rong Zhixing's memory. Really? Look, I'm already listening to the song written by Yu Wei for Jiang Xiao. Rong Zhixing repeatedly expressed his feelings with tears and laughter, but the first priority was to stabilize the little girl's emotions no matter what. Jiang Xiao finally noticed a song that had been circulating in the air all along. The hoarse female voice was gentle and resilient, while the slow-paced song did not appear sluggish, as if in the first half of Jiang Xi's life, the beautiful lyrics were full of positive evaluations and understandings of Jiang Xiao. This song is like a carefully written memoir that is moving. Zhixing, what do you think of this song? The bright fox's eyes twitched slightly, and Jiang Xiao smiled into two crescent moons while holding her small face. However, there was a hint of caution in her words. She now turned into a cautious child begging for candy, timidly waiting for the sweetness that came upon her. When it comes to music, there hasn't been much research on Rong Zhixing, but he still half squinted his eyes to capture the unique and refreshing taste of that song in the air. It sounds great. Really? The girl's eyes were probably missing stars, and when she smiled, her eyes were as bright as a sea of stars. This compliment has a different meaning for Jiang Xiao. She never expected that this song, which belongs to her in ACI, would be recognized by Rong Zhixing. The screen of Rong Zhixing's phone flickered slightly with light, and her slender fingers pressed down on the screen. Hello, Jiang Xiao. How did you call ACI? Jiang Xiao stared at Rong Zhixing with a relaxed smile on her face full of suspicion, feeling that it was not just a simple greeting phone call. Mr. Rong, what's up? Jiang Xiao, who was sunbathing on the Golden Beach in Australia, slowly spoke up. The huge beach was bustling with people, and no one recognized him. It was a rare leisure. I would like to meet with Yu Wei. You have always represented her in all occasions, so you should know her true self, right? Rongji walked down the stairs and picked up a stack of documents placed on the coffee table. Inside were all the known files of Yu Wei, except for a large question mark in the photo column. The words, Yu Wei, made Jiang Xiao's heart skip a beat. She carefully followed behind Rong Zhixing and turned to the kitchen to wash an apple, chewing it bite by bite, trying to conceal the unnatural expression on her face. She is not ACI, she doesn't have such good and natural acting skills to confidently deceive everyone. Is Xiao Xiao with you? Jiang Xiao hesitated for a while before speaking up. She's by my side. Do you have anything to do? Rong Zhixing deliberately accentuated his tone, as if emphasizing that Jiang Xiao was by his side at the moment rather than by Jiang Xi's side. Cough. I'll discuss with you Wei later and get back to you. Jiang Xi coughed lightly and suppressed his smile, then hung up the phone. It was the actor's self-cultivation that prevented him from laughing on the spot. Eating the last bite of the apple, the sound of phone messages rang out untimely, and Jiang Xiao secretly prepared to touch the room. Ding! Jiang Xiao, please stop. Rong Zhixing spoke up and stopped the small figure that was moving step by step. He quickly walked up to the girl and saw the latest news source with his sharp eyes. Jiang Xiao stiffened and slowly turned around, with a pleasing smile on her face, but she hadn't had time to turn off the phone that was lit up on the screen. Bring your phone, let me take a look. Rong Zhixing reached out his hand to Jiang Xiao, but his originally gentle expression had now cooled down, and his eyes were frosty. Jiang Xiao was frightened and trembled all over, but the little person tightly grasped the phone in his hand without any intention of obediently handing it over. No way. This is my privacy. The phone screen clearly displays words that make Rong Zhixing extremely sensitive. You have a message from ACI, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. We need to look at the abdominal muscles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. We need to look at the abdominal muscles. Rong Zhixing grabbed her wrist and carried the person into his arms. The dazzling font on that line gradually made his gaze boil. Jiang Xiao in her arms noticed the abnormality of his body after a slight tremor. She carefully lifted her head, but could only see his cold and hard chin, with a straight lip line. It's a signal of anger. I haven't seen him for many years. In Jiang Xiao's memory, he has always been a gentle big brother who would buy her the sweet orange candy from all over the world. But now, how could he get angry so easily? It's already the second time, so fierce. Actually. Jiang Xiao was about to explain with wording that there was actually nothing on her phone that couldn't be seen, just that she didn't know what Jiang Xi had sent her. Rong Zhixing's thin lips slightly parted and his tone was clearly displeased. He's still in contact with you. Jiang Xiao raised her eyebrows in surprise and said, what's wrong? Why can't we contact each other? Her answer was too natural and taken for granted, completely unaware that her actions were repeatedly jumping on the anger points of Rong Zhixing. Why are you still stubborn? Jiang Xiao was a bit angry. She had originally planned to cancel it before entering the Rong family, but hearing that Rong Zhixing had objections to Jiang Xi made her very uncomfortable. You don't understand ACI. Rong Zhixing, I don't want to argue with you. At the end, Jiang Xiao's eyes were slightly red, and a pair of agile fox eyes were misty, as if they had been mercilessly ravaged by someone. Seeing the little girl's expression, it was so painful that Rong Zhixing instantly surrendered his gun and vented his anger. Although he didn't like Jiang Xi and even detested her to the extreme, he couldn't bear to see the little girl shed a single tear, especially in the injustice he suffered. He pressed the person into his arms, gently comforting her back with his palm, and said in a tone of helplessness and indulgence, "All right, listen to you, don't make any noise." But this action made the little girl's nose calculate even more, and she shamelessly rubbed against his arms, "But you're so fierce." This action, like a kitten, shattered Rong Zhixing's softness. He reached out to wipe away a tear from the corner of his eye, and his voice was particularly gentle, as if coaxing. "Brother is wrong, can you forgive him?" Jiang Xiao sniffed and said, "Okay, then I want to go back to my room." Rong Zhixing let go of her and even helped her cut her hair, watching her return to the room before sitting back on the sofa. The gentleness just now is completely gone, leaving only a pool of sinister indifference in the eyes. Jiang Xi. After the door closed, Jiang Xiao blinked her eyes and all the grievances were swept away. Taking advantage of the situation, the message was sent by Jiang Xi. "Xiao Xiao, do you want to cooperate with Rong Zhixing?" Jiang Xiao's finger paused for a moment. Looking back on the scene just now, she still felt a bit scared. If it weren't for her cleverness pretending to be aggrieved, this little vest might not have been able to cover it in front of Rong Zhixing. Her tender little hands tapped on the keyboard and quickly replied, "I'm currently staying at the Rong family, don't message me randomly." "Oh, so I just don't want to cooperate, I'll reply to him right away." "Wait." Jiang Xiao was really grateful for his fast typing and quickly stopped him. "I didn't say I didn't want to." Jiang Xiao's mind echoed back to what Rong Zhixing had just said. He said his music was beautiful, and he was almost thrilled to receive his approval. How could you not want to cooperate? Just, my good CI, my little vest cannot be exposed yet. Can you help me find a substitute to meet him? Please be cute. JPG, Jiang Xiao tried her best to act coquettishly, and currently only Jiang Ci can help her overcome this difficult situation. But she didn't know that Jiang Ci, who was sunbathing across from her, felt the chilly breeze on the beach. Since the appearance of this character, his little cotton jacket has been leaking more and more. Under Jiang Xiao's repeated trials and tribulations, Jiang Ci agreed. Jiang Xiao happily exited the chat page and quickly caught a notice from the school department. The art festival, which had been on hold for a while, finally found an investor. The teacher asked the top 5 students in the department to each produce a program. Unfortunately, Jiang Xiao is the leader among the 5, a leader in the music department, and a genius in the eyes of teachers. She usually plays a role in organizing various competitions and activities in schools. But her piano has been moved to a new house, and Jiang Ci has not yet given her the key to the new house. During dinner at night, Rong Zhixing looked at the little girl's bitter melon face and thought she was still angry. The voice slowed down, gentle as if it could drip water. Brother knows it's wrong, why is the little princess still unhappy? The phrase, little princess Jiang Xiao, is quite useful. I'm not angry with you, I'm just thinking about the piano. Piano. I'm going to practice piano recently, but can't I go home? When will Uncle Jiang and Aunt come back? Rong Zhixing breathed a sigh of relief. It was not because of himself that he was angry. Whenever Jiang Xiao was involved, he would easily lose his sanity. I'll handle this matter, you eat well first. Jiang Xiao watched as Rong Zhixing got up and walked to the balcony to make a phone call. His gaze fell on his broad back, gradually moving downwards. Wide shoulders and narrow waist, the curves below are also quite curved. Jiang Xiao looked at it and suddenly felt a dry and itchy throat. Really, why do you look so beautiful without any worries? Your figure is really good. I just don't know if there are abdominal muscles. With this thought in mind, Rong Zhixing had already hung up the phone and turned around, his gaze just right on her pair of fox eyes that were staring at him foolishly, and his heart skipped a beat. As he approached, the little girl's gaze stared blankly at him. He seemed to understand why there was a hidden beauty in the golden house now, and he also wanted to hide Jiang Xiao. What are you looking at? Suddenly asking a question, Jiang Xiao didn't turn around and instinctively said, abdominal muscles. Such a straightforward expression stunned Rong Zhixing. How could he, as a 30-year-old, be stirred up like a drum by a little girl? After Jiang Xiao finished speaking, she finally regained her senses. Her fair and tender face had a few blushes on it, as if she could drip blood with just a pinch. Ah! I'm full, I'll go back first. Jiang Xiao was about to run away when he was stopped. They will send the piano over later, you can inspect it. Although her voice was ordinary, this sentence carried a warm feeling and flowed into the rippling stream in her heart. Did you buy me a piano? The one I bought at the last auction has been left at the venue but hasn't been returned. By the way, Jiang Xiao remembered that they parted ways last time because they had a heated argument over Jiang Ci's matter, and the piano matter came to an end. He has a conscience and keeps his word. Jiang Xiao didn't even notice that the corner of her mouth had slightly raised, and her careful thinking was evident. In less than half an hour, the doorbell rang, and a dozen men in suits and leather shoes carefully lifted the 20 million yuan piano to the center of the living room. The emptiness there suddenly filled up, as if it had already belonged here. A magnetic sinking sound came from behind, hitting the bone and making a tingling sound. "Give it a try," he said. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Are You Yu Wei? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Are You Yu Wei? Even if it's Rong Jiang Xiao plans to get started. The transparent skeleton piano is really tempting. When she was at the auction, she couldn't help but want to get involved. Now that this piano finally belongs to her, there is no need to restrain her liking. Rong Jiang watched the little girl happily run towards the piano, with a pure and sincere heart. All emotions were written on her face, and she didn't know how to hide them. At this moment, he hoped to always protect Jiang Xiao under his arms, to always maintain her nature, and not be infected by this chaotic world. Jiang Xiao was completely focused on the piano, completely unaware of what he was thinking now. The aperture of the living room hits the crystal piano, reflecting the same color of light. Dang! The slender white fingers landed on the black and white keys, presenting a dull and impure sound. Fingertips flow, and notes leap on the keys of the piano, as if speaking in a hoarse voice, ancient and timeless. From the first note to the end, Jiang Xiao was immersed in it, as if wandering around in a dense forest, soaking in the fresh air of newly sprouted leaves. "Brother Jiang, how do I play?" Jiang Xiao leaped and ran to Rong Jiang, raising a proud little face, like a child begging for rewards. Rong Jiang instinctively reached out his hand and gently pinched her erect Qiong nose. With a mix of indulgence in her smile, she said, "I haven't seen you for so many years. The little girl has really grown up and plays very well. I really like it." Rong Jiang's thoughts are surging, but more is regret. He has been walking for so many years, missing out on every stage of the little girl's growth, and he is not present at all her shining moments. Although he occasionally receives photos of Jiang Xiao playing the piano from his mother, by the time he realizes it, the little girl has grown up and is no longer the childish appearance of calling her brother after him as a child. With this in mind, Jiang Xiao avoided the hand he was about to fall on his head and said, "Let's rehearse this piece. Us. I forgot to tell you that I want to perform with my classmates at the art festival. Since you said it sounds good, I'll choose this song. Your judgment won't be wrong." He is really a child, his emotions come and go quickly. He originally wanted to warm up, but was interrupted by her inexplicable charm. But forget it, they have a long way to go. However, can I invite my classmates to rehearse at home? If you go to the company during the day and there is no one at home, I promise not to move around, only rehearse. Jiang Xiao said, afraid that he wouldn't believe him, and his fingers swore together. But Jiang Xiao didn't know that as long as it was her request, the Rongji Guild would unconditionally comply. "Okay, it's up to you. I originally wanted to work from home and spend more time with her, but at this age, the little girl probably doesn't need his clingy brother anymore. Well, being young is meant to be bold and bold. If you forcibly tie her to your side, it will be a canary that cannot fly." Rong Jiang prefers to see her youthful and sparkling appearance. He thought he could wait, but soon he realized that his self-control was far from what he had imagined, especially in everything related to Jiang Xiao. On the weekend, Jiang Xiao arranged for the other 4 classmates to rehearse together, as each person had to have an ensemble in addition to their own program. After seeing the visitor, Rong Jiang regretted agreeing to her so readily. No one says these 4 are all male classmates. A young and sunny big boy, positive and upward, a few people sitting together and casually saying a few words made Jiang Xiao smile. Looking back on the days Jiang Xiao spent with herself, I got angry twice and even made her cry once. When I smiled, it was only a limited number of times. Xiao, have some fruit. Rong Jiang washed the fruit and walked over. Thank you, brother Jiang. Just leave it there. A boy with big eyes next to him curiously leaned over and asked, Xiao Xiao, is this your brother? I guess so, it's my foster parents' brother. Jiang Xiao explained very seriously because she was afraid that others would misunderstand that they were really siblings. She turned her back to Rong Zhixing and did not see a shadow on his face. My heart froze, as if being tightly grasped and then loosened by someone. In front of several young boys, Rong Zhixing felt inferior for the first time. The buzzing sound in his pocket pulled back his thoughts. As soon as he saw that it was Jiang Xiao calling, he felt even more annoyed. Mr. Rong, Yu Wei has already agreed to meet you. It's 3 o'clock at Orange Heart Cafe. Got it. Rong Zhixing said in an extremely impatient tone. Where is Xiao Xiao? She's busy, what's up with you? Jiang Xiao said 3 words without leaving Xiao Xiao, approaching the point of anger at Rong Zhixing. Jiang Xiao raised an eyebrow where he couldn't see her. He had been sending her a message for a long time without replying, thinking something had happened. Since he was busy, it would be fine. Although I don't want to admit it, Jiang Xiao is safer by Rong Zhixing's side than anywhere else. It's okay, take good care of her, hang up. A commanding tone made Rong Zhixing even more unhappy. Glancing at the time, it's almost time. He walked towards the door, picked up his coat and draped it over his arm. Looking at Jiang Xiao from afar as he was rehearsing, he sighed and pushed the door open before leaving. Jiang Xiao's eardrums were covered by sound waves and she didn't hear the sound of the door closing. Rong Zhixing drove to Orange Heart Cafe. On the reserved seat sat a quiet-looking girl who was not very old, as if she had just graduated from college, with her head down and a bit shy. Hello, Mr. Rong. The girl looked up timidly and quickly lowered her head. Are you Yu Wei? It's me. Rong Zhixing rarely looked at a woman with a scrutinizing gaze. He scanned from top to bottom, feeling that there was a slight discrepancy between this and his imagination. It is also difficult to imagine that the melody that transitions from gentle to high and vigorous comes from her weak and timid body. Excuse me for asking, did you write Jiang Xi's song? Yes. The girl always lowered her head, feeling a bit afraid of the strong aura of Rong Zhixing. After all, when Rong Zhixing sat upright, he was like a stone statue with a knife on it. At first glance, it was like a knife cutting. Girls were already introverted, so they didn't dare to look at him. Why did a cello solo suddenly appear in the third section of the piece? Is this a technique or does it have any purpose? Rong Zhixing folded his hands and placed them on his raised knees. A seemingly ordinary sentence came out of his mouth with a hint of authority, as if questioning. The girl, who was already feeling guilty, couldn't help but tremble in her voice now. I don't have much. Well, I just added it casually. Rong Zhixing was already full of anger, and at this moment, the eagle's eyes narrowed slightly, gathering a firelight. Miss Yu, as a musician, answered so unprofessional, which is really disappointing. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Canceling this program. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Canceling this program. The girl wanted to explain something more, but the man across from her no longer had the patience to listen. Rong Zhixing's fingerbones curled up slightly and knocked on the table, like the sound of a death bell. The girl dared not look up or speak again, and bravely accepted such a silent verdict. Alright, that's all for today. I will communicate with Jiang Xiao about the follow-up matters. As the words fell, Rongji's pedestrian had already left, leaving only a chilly breath floating in the air. Rong Zhixing had just left the coffee shop when he received a call from his assistant. The company had an urgent document that he needed to sign. In the CEO's office of Rongshi. Polar pressure, air condenses, as in an ice cave. Fang Yang looked at his boss's calm and confident demeanor, pondering in his heart what he had said wrong just now. The next second, the file was thrown in front of me, and a gust of wind swept across my face. Fang Yang's heart sank and he said, "Mr. Rong, is there a problem with the documents?" "No problem." "So what's going on here?" Fang Yang has 100 question marks in his heart. He suddenly remembered the girl that the boss had asked Cha to be related to Jiang Yingdi a few days ago, and suddenly realized. "Mr. Rong, the Communication University sent an invitation a few days ago, inviting you to participate in the art festival activity." According to his investigation, Jiang Xiao is currently at Communication University, and the boss recently invested in Communication University in his personal name, which may be because of this Miss Jiang. As expected, Rong Zhixing's gaze became a bit hot. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Do you have a program list?" "Program list? Just go and be invited for a walk, and the boss always thinks that kind of activity is a waste of time. Anyway, he won't watch it. Why do we need a program list?" But now the boss is at the critical point of anger, and he only dares to think about it in his heart. "I'm going to ask the school for it now." In less than 5 minutes, the program list had been handed over to Rong Zhixing. He glanced roughly and quickly fixed his gaze on the familiar name. Music Academy. Jiang Xiao's Farewell to the New Year, and below is a 5-person ensemble, with a scene in his mind that he saw today. Rong Zhixing's heart was still sour, so he raised his hand and directly crossed out the program, throwing the program list back to Fang Yang. "Notify the school to cancel this program." When did the boss like to meddle in these trivial matters? Isn't it just a program? Fang Yang picked up the program list in confusion, glanced at it, and the doubts in his heart dissipated. It turned out to be an ensemble program between 4 boys and Miss Jiang, no wonder. At the thought that those boys should have left in a disheveled state by now, Rong Zhixing felt a little relieved in his heart. What other itinerary are there today? He has already put on his coat and looks eager to go home. The thought of a little girl waiting for him at home made my heart itch. Fang Yang didn't want to dampen his enthusiasm, but what happened at night was really important. "Cheng's side is treating you to dinner today, mainly regarding the upcoming acquisition. This acquisition is imperative for Rong's side." After they returned to their home country, shareholders were watching closely, and if Rong Zhixing wanted to block Yu Yu's public opinion, it had to successfully acquire the Qing family, so today's dinner cannot be avoided. Rong Zhixing raised his hand and rubbed the center of his eyebrows. "Got it, let's go." "Mr. Rong, it's only 5 o'clock now, isn't it too early? Go to the mall first and pick a gift." The direction instantly understood. "Got it, I want to give it to Miss Jiang." The shopping mall is owned by Rong Shi, and as soon as Rong Zhixing appeared, everyone gathered together. "Mr. Rong, what would you like to choose? What kind of things do little girls like?" Apart from his mother, Rong Zhixing has never bought anything for any other woman and is not interested in these little girls' things. But today, after all, I messed up the little girls' ensemble program and treated it as an apology gift for her. Little girl. The manager was also confused, and it was difficult to estimate the small range. "How big is the little girl?" 20. The manager was momentarily stunned, and after seeing the hint in Fang Yang's eyes, he instantly understood. "Mr. Rong, please. These bracelets are all the styles that little girls like, and there are also necklaces and rings over there." He didn't even listen to the 2 tolerance lines mentioned later, and his attention was entirely focused on the bracelet. Because he had just flashed through Jiang Xiao's delicate white fingers on the piano keys in his mind, such a beautiful hand should be decorated with the best-looking bracelet. The manager was also very insightful and began to introduce him to various styles and design concepts. When he saw the bracelet with a keyboard design, he slowly raised the corner of his mouth and lightly tapped his finger bone. "That's it." After seeing this scene, everyone looked at each other. Did they have any eye problems? Mr. Rong just laughed. When he was in a good mood, the manager hurriedly packaged it like a dog's leg and carefully tied a bow on the gift box. "I just handed it over and said, is there anything else Mr. Rong needs?" Rong Xingji raised his eyebrows slightly, his gaze fixed on the manager, with only 4 words. Salary doubled. The manager's mind was empty and he almost knelt down, his mouth almost grinning behind his ear. Thank you, Mr. Rong. Please take your time, Mr. Rong. He will be anxious with anyone who complains that Rong is always unkind to him in the future. How kind Rong is always. How approachable. What a human radiance. The dinner party at night is what Rong Xingji hates the most, but he has to accept it. After toasting and exchanging cups several times, Rong Xingji's stomach felt a burning pain. The dinner party finally came to an end, and Fang Yang had been waiting for him outside. When he saw his hand pressing on his abdomen, his assistant suddenly woke up and immediately welcomed him. Mr. Rong, have you had another stomach problem? I'll take you to the hospital. No need, go home. Rong Xingji thought of Jiang Xiao waiting for him at home. There was only her at home, and she might be afraid. After all, when she was a child, she was timid and always pulled herself to accompany her. She had to wait until she fell asleep at night before leaving. Fang Yang couldn't resist him and helped him onto the car. The space of the car is sealed, and the smell of alcohol quickly fills everywhere. Rongji lowered the car window and let the night breeze blow in. His dim eyes suddenly lit up as he thought of something. Fang Yang, turn a few more circles before going back. The smell of alcohol on her body has not dissipated yet, so Jiang Xiao definitely doesn't like it. When I got home, it was just past 12 o'clock. I don't know if Jiang Xiao is asleep, but Rong Zhixing lightly unlocked the door and entered. The movement was particularly light, but it still woke up the petite figure on the sofa. Brother Zhixing. Jiang Xiao sat up in shock and rubbed his red eyes. Rong Zhixing turned on the light and saw Jiang Xiao waiting for him on the sofa until he fell asleep. He had just woken up and his voice sounded like a kitten. Well, why haven't you slept yet? His voice unconsciously softened, afraid that speaking loudly would scare her. I'm waiting for you. Why did you come back so late today? I didn't answer your phone. Jiang Xiao's nasal voice was a bit heavy, his mouth was flattened, as if he was dissatisfied with accusing him of his wrongdoing. Rong Zhixing took out his phone and smiled helplessly. The phone is out of battery, are you crying? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Entering the hospital. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Entering the hospital. Looking at the swollen corners of Jiang Xiao's eyes, it was obvious that she had cried before, and Rong Zhixing's heart froze. Jiang Xiao's nasal voice was still grumbling, then he let out a sigh and pretended to be carefree, but it's okay, it's getting late. Brother Zhixing, go rest now. Tell me, what's wrong? How could Rong Zhixing watch her grievances without asking? Just. Jiang Xiao was like a kitten, her head almost hanging down on her legs, and her voice was as low as a mosquito. Our art festival ensemble program has been cancelled. Rong Zhixing. Maybe we're not outstanding enough, but after rehearsing for so long, everyone has put in a lot of effort. It's inevitable to feel uncomfortable if the program is cancelled directly. I'll just take a break. How else can we be outstanding? It's just because it's too excellent. Rong Zhixing didn't expect that the comfortable gesture for him would make the little girl cry. It's my brother's fault. Jiang Xiao's tilted little head suddenly froze. It's nothing to do with Brother Zhixing, it's our own problem. You don't need to apologize. Rong Zhixing certainly cannot tell her the truth, otherwise wouldn't it make the little girl hate her even more? He felt a bit guilty, but he also sincerely apologized. Although he had drunk, he could still control himself. He took out the carefully packaged gift from his arms and handed it to Jiang Xiao. This is my brother's apology gift. Please forgive him after accepting it. This is the second time he has humbly begged forgiveness in front of Jiang Xiao. Jiang Xiao is his bottom line. He can do anything for her, including bowing his head and admitting his mistake. A pair of fox eyes in front of him blinked blankly. Although the situation was unclear, when he heard of a gift, he happily opened it. Wow! Did you specifically choose the key design for me? Rong Zhixing looked at her crescent-like eyes shining brightly, and an unconscious smirk of indulgence appeared on the corner of her lips. The sea of hearts is gradually being stirred up, making it difficult to calm down for a while. Yes, do you like it? I like it. Jiang Xiao nodded heavily, all her love overflowing. Rong Zhixing deeply engraved her appearance in his mind. As expected, she was still a child, and a small gift made her so happy and impressive. The atmosphere instantly became sweet, and Jiang Xiao pushed the box to him, extending a lotus root arm and gently shaking it in front of his eyes. Then help me carry it, she said, there's really nothing I can do about you, don't move. Rong Zhixing looked hesitant on the surface, but in reality, his heart seemed to be filled with marshmallows, and his friendship blossomed, wanting to vent it. In the end, I held back. The little girl was still too young, afraid of scaring her. After all, I was 10 years older than him, so I still had to consider the long run. Jiang Xiao's gaze did not shift away from the bracelet. Jiang Xiao had bought her a lot of jewelry, and there were at least hundreds of bracelets, but none of them were as happy as when Rong Zhi gave her this time. Perhaps it's because I haven't seen you for a long time, a momentary novelty. The cold fingertips ran over her wrist, and Jiang Xiao suddenly felt a tingling, itching sensation, and a bit on her head. Her gaze became less honest due to these restlessness, and began to shift upwards towards Rong Zhixing's exquisitely carved facial features. Slowly tracing his own contours with his gaze, each stroke exhausting his strength, as if to be engraved in his heart, leaving a permanent mark. Brother Zhixing, you look even better than when you were young. When I was a child, I was thinking about how there was such a good-looking brother in the world, but now you look better, it seems like you have more, Jiang Xiao stopped, touched his chin, as if thinking of a suitable adjective for him, furrowed his brows tightly, and finally let go after thinking of it. Some maturity. Rong Zhixing helped her put on the bracelet, and the free subordinate unconsciously tapped her nose. You little girl, do you know what maturity is? At his words, Jiang Xiao was somewhat dissatisfied, pouting and pinching her waist, with a look of wanting to argue with him logically. Isn't maturity just about getting older? Rong Zhixing was somewhat powerless to refute, which was quite true. Just a sudden jerk in his stomach, he frowned unpreparedly and quickly regained his composure in front of the little girl. Why, are you disrespecting my older brother? Jiang Xiao hugged his arm and swayed it coquettishly, her mouth sweet like honey. You're not old, you'll always be 18. Rong Zhixing was about to laugh, but he felt pain in his stomach and couldn't help but hiss out loud. Startled, Jiang Xiao quickly released his arm, thinking it was a painful tug. What's wrong with you? It's okay, take a break. At this moment, Jiang Xiao noticed that his face was somewhat pale, with a sickly pallor. Brother Zhixing, are you feeling unwell? Let's go to the hospital. Jiang Xiao, who had experienced this kind of thing for the first time, began to tremble when speaking. Seeing his somewhat weak appearance, he was immediately at a loss and panicked, choosing no other way. It's okay, I had some alcohol for dinner, but I had a slight stomach ache. Just take a nap and it'll be fine tomorrow. Be good, go back to sleep. Rong Zhixing didn't want to scare her, so he kept suppressing the discomfort in his abdomen. Sweat had already sprouted from his forehead, and his teeth couldn't help but tremble. Brother Zhixing, let's go to the hospital, okay? Okay. Rong Zhixing is never spoiled. In the past, if he had stomach problems during social gatherings, he would just take some medicine and get over it. This time, he had planned to follow his previous approach, but when he heard Jiang Xiao's crying voice, he instinctively agreed. We need to get better quickly, otherwise what if the little girl cries again? How did you grow up to be a crybaby? Rong Zhixing rubbed his brows and said, You stay at home, brother, go to the hospital, get a bottle and come back. No, I can't accompany you. Jiang Xiao was too persistent, and Rong Zhixing couldn't refuse. In the end, the two of them went to the hospital together. After a busy day, Jiang Xiao finally saw Rong Zhixing putting on a hanging bottle. He calmed down and pulled up a chair to sit in front of the emergency bed, guarding him. Watching, my eyelids were too heavy, and I fell asleep in a daze. When Rong Zhixing opened his eyes, he saw Jiang Xiao's slender eyelashes covered like crow feathers, as if he had dreamed of something, and suddenly let out a whimper. Following the scratching sound, Rong Zhixing's heart was also scratched by feathers, with a delicate itch covering her whole body. She wanted to relieve the itch but couldn't find a specific location, and everywhere was the fire she stirred up. He fixed his gaze on Jiang Xiao's crimson eyes and immediately remembered something. He took out his phone and sent a message to Fang Yang. Notify the school to continue the art festival according to the original program schedule. In the middle of the night, Fang Yang suddenly received a reinforced reminder from his boss while sleeping. He suddenly woke up from his dream, thinking there was an important notice, and when he clicked on it, he found himself feeling unwell. Late at night, not sleeping, that's all. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Additional investment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Additional investment. The hanging bottle was almost finished, but Rong Zhixing couldn't bear to wake her up, so he carried her to the bed and kindly covered her with a blanket. When Jiang Xiao woke up and opened her eyes, she found that the sky was already bright and she didn't know how to fall asleep in bed. Suddenly, she thought of something and searched everywhere for Rong Zhixing's figure. There was no place in her sight, so she couldn't help but feel a bit panicked. Brother Zhixing is still sick, how could she fall asleep with such a big heart? That's great, everyone has been lost. When Rong Zhixing came back with breakfast, he saw a scene like this. Jiang Xiao searched everywhere for shoes but couldn't find them. Her eyebrows were tightly furrowed and she was trying to land barefoot. But fortunately, I didn't cry. Thinking of this, Rong Zhixing floated in a helpless arc. You put your shoe under the bed, go back to the bed and wait, I'll get it for you. Speaking, Rong Zhixing bent down, took out her shoes from under the bed, and carefully put them on for her. Her movements were gentle and she didn't dare to exert force, afraid of hurting her ankle. Brother Zhixing, why do you look like an old father? Jiang Xiao found that he was a bit like Jiang Xiao, but he was even better to her than Jiang Xiao. Whenever it was about her, he would cover everything and everything was perfect. How did you become an old father? Didn't you say last night that I would always be 18? Rong Zhixing couldn't help but want to tease her. That's just a metaphor, Jiang Xiao pouted. I'll get used to you like this. What if you don't treat me as well in the future? I won't even have the ability to take care of myself then. No, I will always take care of you. I dare not say anything else, but I am confident in this. However, in Jiang Zhao's opinion, his seriousness is not reliable, and the old man's promise lacks substance. Why not? In case you find a girlfriend, get married, and have children in the future, you definitely won't have time to take care of me. What should I do if I feel a little jealous of his future girlfriend? Jiang Xiao felt stuffy in her heart, but she couldn't describe what it felt like, nor did she know why. Rong Zhixing didn't know how to explain to her. After his investigation during this period, the little girl was completely focused on him, really treating him like a brother, heartless and heartless. He is a bit scared. I'm afraid the little girl won't like him, it's just family affection. If he moves forward recklessly, it will eventually solidify the relationship between the two, and the gains and losses will not be worth the losses. This is not the result he wants. Take it slow, that's all I can do. Don't daydream about useless things. I bought breakfast and ate it while it's hot. I'll take you to school later. Without a definite answer, Jiang Xiao felt a bit empty in her heart, always feeling something was missing. There was something ethereal in her heart, wanting to catch and see clearly, but eventually it became a bubble and dissipated. Strange, why have you been feeling this way lately? Jiang Xiao was originally here to take care of the patient, but instead became a patient taking care of her. Feeling guilty, she finished her meal and buried her head on the way to school without saying a word. Rong Zhixing thought she was still feeling unhappy about the cancellation of the program, and did not inform her in advance, allowing her to open up the surprise herself. When she arrived at school, Jiang Xiao didn't even say goodbye, slammed the car door and turned her head before leaving. Rong Zhixing, who was left empty in the car, watched her graceful figure disappear and pondered to himself. It seems that I've been getting too used to it lately, and I dare to get angry with him casually. Teach her a good lesson after going back. Rong Zhixing then drove to the Rong family. I just returned to my home country and still have a lot of things to deal with. These days, I have been focusing on Jiang Xiao, and the files on my desk have piled up like mountains. After seeing him, Fang Yang came over and reported, Mr. Rong, the school has already notified us. Do you have any further requirements? Well, an additional 10 million yuan will be invested in the music department. Fang Yang harbored a grudge in his heart, saying that it would be great to invest 10 million yuan in Miss Jiang. After such a big detour, he really considers himself a philanthropist. But he just dared to think, yes. The company's funds are now all used for large-scale projects, so these investments are made in the name of Rong Zhixing himself. Of course, he will not let those stubborn people catch him. But there are always a few who like to prick. Just after noon, after approving the documents for the whole morning, Rong Zhixing was about to close his eyes and take a nap when Fang Yang's appearance disrupted his plan. Mr. Rong, Mr. Qi missed a final payment on the project of the Ring Expressway. If it is not checked and accepted, you will have to go there in person. Qi Heng is the most difficult and unattractive among these shareholders. The whereabouts of the final payment are unknown. Fools know who's in their pockets. He remembered that veteran-level employees had old feelings, but he had been indulging in not taking action. These people really thought he was easy to talk to. Fang Yang immediately booked a flight to Huacheng and set off immediately. Before the plane took off, Fang Yang saw his boss anxiously holding his phone. The message has been out for 20 minutes and there has been no response yet. He couldn't bear to watch any more and spoke up to remind him, Mr. Rong, the plane is about to take off. How about you make a phone call directly? We need to stay in Huacheng for a few days, and we won't be able to come back for a while. She might be rehearsing now, so she shouldn't bother anymore. Thinking of the little girl's joyful appearance as she resumed the program, Rong Zhixing's mood also improved a lot. Suyang pouted, so aloof. Can you bear to wait for news like an old man? The plane will land in 3 hours. Rong Zhixing first opened his phone and saw several messages from Jiang Xiao. Brother Zhixing, have you been on a business trip? When will you be back then? Can I go to your study to read while you're not around? I have some good news to tell you secretly. My wish I made last night came true. Our ensemble program can resume rehearsal now. Rong Zhixing can imagine her smiling porcelain-white face through her words and lines. Her smile is surprisingly infectious, and the fox's eyes smile like crescent moon, with stars hidden inside. Even her fantasies can be stirred up by her, sweeping away the haze. It will take about a week, and that's also your home. You can go to any room, come on and rehearse. The little girl didn't seem to be busy and quickly replied to the message. Ah. It will take a week. I originally wanted you to come and watch my art festival performance. It can be imagined that she must be drooping her head now. What day is the art festival? The day after tomorrow. It depends on the situation, let's rehearse carefully first. Putting down his phone, Rong Zhixing looked at Fang Yang, the co-pilot, and said, notify me. We will have a meeting this afternoon. Isn't it scheduled for tomorrow afternoon? Qi Heng likes to play big cards. It's not easy to make appointments, and he won't give anyone face. This is widely recognized. Qi Heng is like an iron plate, whoever kicks him will have bad luck. Rong Zhixing's body was filled with a chill, and under the immense aura, his voice became gloomy. I only want the result. End of this chapter.